All right, everyone, it was funny a few days ago when Bernie Sanders was invited on for a Fox News town hall, and all of the conservatives, like the MAGA folks out there were flabbergasted, oh my God, let him get away with this and stuff, and I'm sitting there chuckling because I told you so years ago that Fox News had sold out and become total legacy media. They were never really independent to begin with. The fact that they have Stossel on there, or the fact that, fucking, what's his name, Tucker Carlson occasionally says something sane, doesn't mean that they're a sane network. They are still a multi-million dollar media conglomerate that is owned by a multi-billion dollar parent firm that is not even a U.S. firm. If you're expecting independent, hard-hitting, actual coverage from people who aren't seven-figure gated community pundits, you're not going to find it on Fox News. It's just like with Coulter or any of these other goofballs. I keep warning people not to trust them. A broken clock is right twice a day. It's totally fine. They say something and you're like, yeah, well, that makes sense. Okay, it's possible for someone who's totally nuts and a total sellout to still say something that's fundamentally true once in a while. But you're not going to get it that often. So when they had the town hall with Bernie Sanders scheduled, I'm like, oh, this is going to be funny. See, the thing is, a few months ago, they hired Donna Brazille. Oh, you remember that person who headed the DNC briefly, who lied about the Clinton emails, attacked WikiLeaks, a vicious neoliberal corporatist, sort of like the people who run Fox News? You remember that? A lot of you probably don't. And so it was obvious, the writing is on the wall. Here's the thing. Bernie Sanders gets up there. And time again, people make the mistake when they're trying to debate a socialist. They allow them to use their own false linguistic terms. So instead of raising taxes to pay for shitty healthcare, it's, oh, I want to give you free healthcare. It's single payer. Single payer is bullshit. It's not going to work, dude. And then people say, well, if we just slashed the military budget, we could pay for this program. Okay, an ever-inflating cost program, number one, that would eventually strangulate us. Because, look, the U.S. government is bureaucratically strangled. It's not going to be able to administer such a thing. That's the first problem. The number two problem is we happen to be the world's monopolar power. We're sort of holding the economic situation in the world together. I hate to say this, but it's not actually possible to pull back on our military ambitions. Sometimes that even involves interventionism. It would collapse the world economy. It would even collapse the Eastern Bloc countries. They don't want us to change our ways either. The best thing we've got is Trump renegotiating trade deals and trying to slightly restructure the tax code. I'll tell you how to take care of healthcare. Get government out of it as much as possible and encourage as much competition as possible. Oh, I don't have insurance. Won't matter if it's a lot cheaper now, will it? Most people will be able to pay for it directly. Give people a direct subsidy for basic care if they're really poor. That's all you have to do. It doesn't require 1,000 bureaus. It doesn't require... this office, I would have to have floor to ceiling filled with pieces of paper in order to catalog just the basic, most rudimentary medical regulations in this country. Fucking drug importation, drug reimportation, medical devices, malpractice, everything under the goddamn sun. Yes, when you have 1 million lawyers and a whole shit ton of bureaus administering your healthcare system, it's not going to be as cost efficient. Get rid of as much of that as possible, where applicable. Certainly break up those pharma monopolies and get rid of their patent trolling, where they have the rights to a drug indefinitely and they can jack the price up and nobody can make a generic. You know how much cheaper most care would be in this country if we tackled that issue instead of worrying about throwing free money to people? And it's not free money. Sanders comes out and says, well, you're going to have free healthcare. It's not free healthcare. The government cannot give free things away. It can only take wealth from one private individual or group and give it to another. The problem is this. Think about it this way. This is why socialism sucks, in a nutshell. Easiest way to understand it. Let's say I have $100, and I give you $100. How much money do you have? You have $100. I've given you charity. I've given you $100. You've got $100. Now, technically, you have to claim that as something that's taxable as a gift. Most people don't for small totals. It's really unenforceable. Not saying you should. Legally speaking, of course, I have to say, yes, you should claim it on your taxes if somebody gives you $10. When grandma gives you $20, technically you have to do a tax return. If you're over 18, I'm not sure about if you're younger. I think there are certain thresholds involved. But if you got a day job and I give you $20 or something, technically that's income. It's just income nobody ever claims. Unless they're Donald Trump, then they have to claim it. It's hey, here's 10 cents. Oh, shit. Now I'm going to make out a paper with my accountant. Fuck you. It'll cost more than the dime did. But... now let's say that we do socialism. So instead of giving you $100, I'm giving that $100 to some bureau head. They do their paperwork, they tabulate everything, record everything in triplicate, sign everything up. They're getting money too. So now it's $90, and then they hand it off to a local office, and gets transferred again, it probably goes through a bank or something. By the time it gets to you, you got maybe $60, maybe $70, and that would be high efficiency for a socialist economy. It's probably $5. The government probably used most of that money to go bomb people overseas. If you think for a fucking second that a President Bernie Sanders would be successful in fundamentally overhauling our economic system in favor of American workers and all that bullshit that socialists ramble about so much, you are insane. It will never, ever happen. You have to inject competition and capitalism back into the system and deregulate. Get rid of all of the red tape before you can even think about that. Now, if you manage to streamline the system, if you constrain government more, yes, direct subsidies, because they are more efficient, can work. It is possible to give people free basic care. Free as in subsidized. It's possible to do that because it's no longer onerous on everybody else who's got higher incomes. But under our current structure, it would not... You think Amazon's going to pay for your fucking health care? I'm going to go after them multinational corporations. It's not going to happen. Everyone in Congress would oppose him. You've got to understand that his economic views are not even in lockstep with the Democrats. Now, I'm sure the Democrats would love to give people free breadcrumbs in order to grandstand to poor and middle-class voters and get them to perpetually vote Democrat. They're not going to be able to do that in a way that's actually going to help you. The government, the government wouldn't even be able to justify the socialism and centrality if there weren't enough problems to cause enough social alienation to get him passed in the first place. And the people at Fox News allowed him to get away with his free stuff shtick. Because that's exactly what it is. It's a big fucking bald-faced lie that will never actually come true. It's not free stuff, it's stuff that people like you and I have to pay for. And if you think it'll just affect the tippy tops, as AOC says, we're going to tax the super rich that make millions of dollars a year. No, you're not. You're going to come for people like me, who already pay through the nose. I don't make a six-figure salary, but I'm still going to pay more in taxes, and I'm still and then you're going to give me shitty health care in return. Oh, thank you. Benevolent government, you're giving me some of what I already gave you back to me. You are so generous. Let me worship at the altar of socialism. What a fucking wonderful time. No, capitalism is the way to go. We need less regulation, less strangulation. We need much more competition. And the biggest problem is monopolies, and this affects like the tech firms too. The monopolies are what are allowing them to censor and deplatform people. Monopolism and trusts, that side of it. And number two, patents, copyrights. Things of that nature. Those are the two biggest fucking problems with our healthcare system. Oh, we're going to scale back military spending. Okay, yeah, get rid of the no-bid contracts. Oh, wait, you can't, because the arms dealers won't let you, and they own half of Congress. The people in Congress are owned by the people Bernie Sanders supposedly wants to do away with and attack. By the way, you go after those multinationals. Let's say that Bernie Sanders gets in, he actually gets carte blanche. Let's say the Democrats, supermajority House, supermajority Senate, they're like, Bernie, you're our messiah. You're so great, we're going to let you do whatever the fuck you want. Just tell us what you want us to pass. Okay, well, I want to go after Amazon, and I want to go after Microsoft, and I want to go after McDonald's, and Walmart, and Costco, and all of these things. Let's say he does that. What are they going to do? They're going to leave. And you're going to end up with spiraling unemployment. See, they've got a strangulation on the system. Before you can tackle this problem, you must limit government. You must deregulate, and you must inject far more competition and capitalism. The free market will displace the monopolies on its own, in a vacuum, if you get rid of the heavily monopolized interventionist system, which is closer to socialism than true capitalism that we currently have. Get rid of that, let the free market fix it. It'll absolutely happen. We operated under that system for almost the first 200 fucking years of our country, and yet we were still there. We slowly gained infrastructure, became a major player in the world before we had any of these programs. We were already one of the world's main powers by that time. We could have sat by and let everyone else kill each other, and we would have risen up and become the world power anyway. We didn't even need to get involved in the Great War experience. It wouldn't have even been necessary. Europe would have bombed itself into oblivion. We could have sat back and sold them shit. Capitalism did that, not socialism. Fuck socialism, and fuck Bernie Sanders. And also, by the way, fuck Fox News. Legacy, probably the most successfully branded legacy media outlet, by the way, because they've convinced their fans that they're not part of the legacy media. They pretend that they're still outsiders. We're mavericks. It's like when Bill O'Reilly was on there. Oh, the mainstream media says... Sean Hannity, the mainstream media. You're part of the mainstream media, dude. You get 8 figures a year. You sit at your desk with your Coke bricks down there on a stage that costs fucking $20 million to build. You know, how many staff do you have? Are you not part of the mainstream media? Shilling for war and stupid shit all the time. You're not even a conservative, dude. You're a neocon. There's no similarity whatsoever. That's about all. Peace out.